AI is changing everything. So, as business owners or people looking to find work, I think it's important to keep up with the trends of what the major corporations are doing. So, today I'm reacting to the CEO of Salesforce talking about what he believes is going to happen in the next year. So, I think it's very important for everybody to watch, understand, and I'll be giving my comments.
And we can see that a new world is opening when we look at digital labor. When we're talking about agents, we're talking about digital labor. When I took the Waymo here this morning and I got in the car and I hit the button start ride, it's digital labor. It's all happening digitally.
That's an interesting point, and I used to say this a lot. People who drive Uber and trucks, that's a job many have said in the past that are going to get automated away, probably first. And I was actually in a cab in Houston, not Houston, no, is it Houston? In Dallas. I was in a cab in Dallas, and the guy was saying that he could already see the cars without drivers. And he was like, I just bought this car to Uber and it cost me X amount a month. And I was like, look, I'm gonna tell you from a person that looks at this stuff a lot, you need to get another plan ASAP or try to make as much money as possible until the day comes that this is not your job anymore. Also invest while you're making money because you want the money you're making to be able to grow for you while you are working a job that's most likely going away. And a lot of people are right now.
The CEO of Salesforce made a bold prediction that we are going to have a digital workforce in the very near future. And this comes in the form of AI agents. If you've watched this channel at all, you know I'm incredibly bullish on agents, and 2025 is going to be the critical year.
So another thing I'm doing here is I'm watching a reaction to the video. But I'm gonna try to highlight the people I think make sense to follow as well as you try to understand and make sense of this new world. So this guy, Matt Berman, is another guy. I watch a lot of his stuff. He's very good at breaking down what's happening. He's also a developer. He's building AI agents. So am I. There's a few other people that I've seen that I'm like following and watching as much of their stuff as possible. I think you should be doing the same. If you did come across my channel, thank you. Please like, subscribe so you can keep in touch, so you can keep up with this stuff is moving so fast that now I'm starting to try to make more and more content because I've always in the past just watched this stuff on my own and said, wow, how is this going to affect my business or anything around me? And now I'm saying, okay, this is a scary time. I'm going to try to help as many people understand it and give them what I see.
We're going to have a massive influx of digital labor entering the workforce, and it is going to have huge consequences on what the world looks like. So all of this was from the Agentforce 2.0 event held by Salesforce. They invited me there. I was actually in that room. And so we're going to watch the most interesting bits from this talk, and I'm going to break it down for you, and I'm going to give you my thoughts. And the most interesting thing I learned from this entire event is how they're positioning Slack to be the frontline interface between you and your human team members and your digital team members. And thank you to Salesforce for partnering with me on this video. Thank you for inviting me to the event. It was awesome. So let's get into it.
Right now, there are thousands of customers working with thousands of agents, working with thousands of humans, all in tandem right now. You can go to it at help.salesforce.com and see it actually play out.
All right, so I'm just going to stop it right away and set the scene here. So this is Mark Benioff. He is the CEO of Salesforce. Salesforce, if you're not familiar, it's a customer relationship management system and really much more than that at this point. But what Mark and Salesforce is really known for is being the first to move software to the cloud with the SaaS business model. That's software as a service. And so Salesforce has been very cutting edge for a while. And
People love and hate this guy for that. He did change the way people pay for software. Back in the early times, you would just buy Photoshop or whatever one time, cost you $1,000, whatever it was, and that's it. You never had to pay for it again, kind of like a CD. And or like a music or a game or something like that. He created this model where you pay monthly, and instead of paying $1,000, you pay $20 a month. So you have to pay 50 months to get the same amount of cost that you would if you had to pay $1,000 for the thing, right? But in doing that, he kind of shifted the business of all companies doing it. And it's kind of, I understand why we do it too, because we gotta constantly update stuff. So if you buy that one version, we have to make enough in that sale to build the next versions. And then you have to buy those two anyway. So in a way, paying monthly, because I'll give you an example with Adobe. I used to buy Adobe because my agency, Mass Ideation, used to need it. So every about year and a half, I would have to spend like, I believe it was like 3 grand on the new software, because if you don't have the new software, you're making it harder for your people to do the job. So $3,000, so people can do more work that makes you more than $3,000, it makes sense to do it. And then Adobe switched to $50, $80 a month or something like that. So if you think about that, in one year, you're paying 1,000, let's say, versus every year and a half paying 3,000. So in a way, it was more beneficial. You could, though, this is where people get upset, is you could have just stayed with that Adobe and just used it for 10 years. You didn't want the new features. You just used the old stuff. That is the difference with cloud, right? Where now I have to pay the $80, whatever I pay, I forget what I pay for Adobe, every month forever, meaning I'm always going to pay whatever it costs if I continue having that business. So with this, I can see AI agents following a similar business model. Also, another guy that's another CRM company that I will react to one of his videos is HubSpot. That guy also is very big on agents. He's created an agent marketplace. So these early tech billionaire guys, they're jumping on this. You need to figure out what's your way of jumping on it.
Mark Benioff has been extremely vocal about agents in particular and really seems to be transitioning his entire company to being an agent first company. And him and Satya Nadella seem to be butting heads. So Mark Benioff has said pretty negative things about Microsoft's Copilot products. He's been extremely vocal about comparing it to Clippy, basically meaning that it's AI, but it doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't actually provide any value. And so what he's going to be describing right now is this shift where digital labor in the form of AI agents are going to be entering the workforce in huge numbers in the coming years. So let's keep watching.
I guess for 25 years, as the CEO of Salesforce, what have I really been doing? We've been building software, but this is different because all of a sudden, as a CEO, I'm not just managing human beings, but I'm also managing agents.
That's powerful. And I hadn't heard that exact phrasing of it yet, but I'm already thinking like that as a CEO of an app, of an AI agent, basically. There's people that are powering this, right? I have developers, I have marketing, I have, sales, all these different pieces to a business. And I'm already thinking, okay, what are the AI agent employees, and who creates them, manages them for me, right? Eventually, those things could manage themselves, but I think we're a long way from that. But as a business owner or a person looking for work, you have to you have to think, okay, what are the AI employees? And can I create them as a business owner, or can I manage them as an employee? Because those are the employees that are gonna keep the work.
There is an agentic layer around the support today for Salesforce. It's not some vision, fantasy, in the future idea. It's what is happening right now.
And when he says right now, he literally means right now. They've deployed AI agents on their help website and they're actively using it with thousands of customers. And so that's really his big differentiation, or at least how he's positioning Agentforce versus Copilot. He really has made a big deal of Copilot basically not being used by Microsoft itself and really nobody using it all that much. Yet he says he has deployed it internally, it being agents from day one. Let's keep watching.
Why does that matter? And why is that significant? I think there's a couple of things that are important. We've seen the movies for decades on AI and where the future is going, but we haven't really been working with agents ourselves, using these kind of next generation AI models grounded in the data that allows us to do our jobs.
Now I want to pause it for a second and I want to touch on something. Now, just a few days ago, I made a video about Satya Nadella saying essentially agents are going to collapse software. Collapse meaning the UI layer of software probably won't be around for very much longer because you're just going to interact with agents who are then going to interact with the data layer.
So that this guy says that a lot. Matthew says this a lot. I don't know if I totally believe that. Again, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Even these billionaires do not know what's going to happen. But I don't know if everybody just interacts with different AI agents or just ChatGPT or just Microsoft Copilot, Salesforce's AI. I don't know. I kind of think there's going to be tasks that are set up by companies, kind of like what we did with Stack, where there's a specific thing that this is going to be an AI agent to do, and it will be very, very hard for an AI to just replicate everything we're doing for our customers because there's so many layers of technology, customer information, data that we're learning from, that not any new AI is going to be able to just spin up and know that. I mean, it's interesting. Basically, what he's saying is people are just going to go to whatever, ChatGPT, and say, hey, I want to go to San Francisco. And if you're in LA, it will do what Uber does. You don't need Uber because it would just do what Uber does. I believe that's what he's saying. I don't agree with that.
So the database. Now, it seems like Mark Benioff and Salesforce in general is already thinking that that is also going to be the case. And so they're investing heavily in agents. And right now, of course, Salesforce, their tentpole product, is an interface on top of a database. Obviously, that's a huge oversimplification of what it is. But imagine rather than interacting with the interface, you can completely interact with agents who then interact with your customer data. And essentially, that's what Mark's vision is as well. And
Oh, I get that. So yes, I agree with that. So what he's saying is instead of there being a user interface where you're clicking buttons to manage your Uber, your Salesforce, um, you will just speak to Uber or Salesforce and they'll do it. It's not going to be like click around. It's going to be like, hey, I'm going to LA and I'm in San Francisco. Can you send me a car? And it will be like, okay, Miguel, you're at this address and you're going to this address. We got it. We did it all for you. I could see that. And I remember I used to make videos years ago where I would say, I believe AI is going to amplify human abilities, not replace them. That was a long time ago. I didn't I didn't think this kind of stuff would be happening this fast. So I thought eventually, like in 100, 200 years, we'd be doing stuff like this. So I'm also learning as I see things with you guys and with everyone else, and I could see what he's saying. I would love Stackit.ai, that's why I bought that domain name. .com was definitely not taken, was because I also viewed it as this is a complicated process that I'm simplifying for my users and my business owners. Um, so if I can make an AI make it even simpler than trying to understand the buttons, and you can speak to it and you can ask it pros or cons of what you're about to do without giving financial advice. I think that would be a good way to do it. So that's why I literally call it Stackit.ai, because I agree with him. I think I'm referring to other videos where I've watched of him that he says people are not even going to make software anymore. They're just going to talk to AI agents like ChatGPT. Like you won't new business owners are not going to create the next Ubers because people are just going to go to ChatGPT and say, I want to go here, and ChatGPT will do it. You won't create an app to do things anymore. These LLMs will just do everything. That I don't know.
So for this transition period, he's giving you both options. Obviously, you can go to the traditional UI, the website, salesforce.com, but you can already develop your own agents, deploy them internally, deploy them externally, and allow them to interact with your customer data. And this stuff is not a vision in the future. It is available now. They gave me demos. It's quite impressive what they can do already. Now, here's the most important part, and something that I've been thinking about quite a bit, which is what is the actual UI layer between you and the agent? Right now, it's text-based mostly. Obviously, there's going to be voice in the future as well. But right now, look at ChatGPT, look at Claude, look at Perplexity. They all have voice elements, but the primary interaction method is text. And a few years ago, Salesforce bought the company Slack, which is an internal company chat tool. And now they are betting heavily that Slack is going to be the primary interface between you and agents. In fact, almost everything that they demoed to us started in Slack. You create your agents in Slack, you talk to them in Slack, you give them tasks from Slack.
That's interesting. So basically, Salesforce is using Slack as its ChatGPT. That makes sense. That was smart. That's a smart business move to buy them and maybe foresee this. These guys know what's about to happen more than most. And that's another thing why you want to study innovation, because then you start to see patterns and you can see what's about to happen for your business industry. Um, I look at this and I say already my teams don't really love Slack, to be honest. And again, as a business owner, Slack has started charging in a way where a lot of business owners are kind of going away from it. We actually use Telegram now mostly for the same exact things that Slack does, but we also can use it as marketing because Telegram, you can create private groups for your team and you can code bots and all that stuff the same way you can do on sales and Slack. But you can also do marketing. Like you could actually make channels that I guess you could do that in Slack as well, but Telegram already has a lot more users of that. It's not only business, it's B2C, and I'm using it as B2B. I don't think many people do that yet, but I kind of see a trend of it happening.
Report back to you in Slack. And I think that's genius. Slack as the primary interface between you and agents just makes a lot of sense to me because all of a sudden you can have your own chat with your human team members, but you can integrate easily with your digital team members. So let's keep watching.
And actually making our businesses much, much better, much easier, much lower cost. And then there's this new opportunity that we all are still getting our head around, to the point that even at Dreamforce, I didn't use these words, digital labor. Because not only are we managing all this information, but we're also now managing this digital labor. And we can see that a new world is opening when we look at digital labor. When we're talking about agents, we're talking about digital labor. When I took the Waymo here this morning and I got in the car and I hit the button start ride, it's digital labor. It's the robot is bringing me here. It's all happening digitally.
So, one thing that I'm going to be talking a lot about in 2025 is digital labor and what that means for humanity. I really believe in the short term and midterm, we're going to see an explosion in productivity for the entire world, an explosion in the GDP of the US and other countries as well. But in the long run, if we have all of this digital labor, both in the digital world and the physical world in the form of embodied agents, AKA robots, then all of a sudden humans are going to have less and less need to work. Now, that doesn't mean we
Bingo. This is the word digital labor is now much more on target for what I believe is coming. They're basically saying that these things are going to do work that people normally do. And you're going to be able to pay nothing for it or very little. And I mentioned this in another video I have in these reactions where I created a 24-hour hotline for my business that cost me $10 a month, something like that, maybe 20, I don't know. But if I had to pay a person or a group of people to have a 24-hour hotline, how much would that cost, right? And I just wouldn't have it, right? Like most other businesses. But because I could literally spin up digital labor and it's on call, you can call a number and ask questions about my product. And imagine that for everything. That's kind of scary. And I mean, as business owners, it's hard not to make sure you understand this stuff because if your competitor's doing it and you're not, they're gonna be able to charge a lot less for things than you. It's a tough place to be. I think this is why I think a lot of people need to just learn how to be entrepreneurs now, create things that make them money, and reskill as you're doing that. And if it doesn't work out as the business, also invest as much of the money that you're making in that business, which is what I'm doing with Stack.ai. If you want to check the description, I'm investing every dollar I'm making in my businesses. So to let that compound and eventually I'll be able to live off of it just in case any of my businesses get taken over by AI and I can't find work and my kids can't find work. That's my personal plan. That's what I'm doing.
we won't work, but it just means we might not have that necessity to. I personally cannot imagine not working because luckily I get to do what I love, but a lot of people don't. And I can imagine a world in which there's just an abundance of resources. So next he's going to talk.
You mentioned something that I just want to make sure I touch on. Most people hate their job. If I ask if you're a entrepreneur, some people do not like their business, and I've been in that scenario. Um, how many of you, you don't got to put it in the comments, but if you want to, how many of you like your job or like your business or don't like your job and don't like your business? I'm willing to bet there's more of both. Don't like their business and don't like their job, but they have to do it because they need money. And what happens if you're not needed to do these things? You know, now what? You may not like your life because now you have nothing to do versus not liking what you do for a living is where I don't know, we're heading to a crazy time and the dream of just living on a beach and just being all day relaxing. Maybe everybody gets to do that. And we just, all of our expenses are covered and we all live the same kind of life, which is what happens in like socialist countries. Like if you go to like, when I went to Spain, everybody was like same level. You didn't really see like one person with like a Ferrari or like super duper rich more than everybody else. Everybody just had about the same. And but again, it did seem like a better quality of life, to be honest. Like people lived first, worked second. And that really stuck with me. And I was like, wow, we're really taught in the United States to focus on work first, living second. And as you travel and you see other people don't live like that, um, there's pros and cons to it, right? Because America's number one because of possibly that. I don't know. But we're heading into crazy times.
Talk about different interaction layers with AI. So not only text, but voice as well, and also robots. And so these are all manifestations of AI agents.
But you could see how already how voice is becoming an incredible new user interface. You can see how avatars are becoming an incredible new user interface. And you can see how robots will be an incredible new user interface. There's no way that Dreamforce 2025 will look like Dreamforce 2024. We've already crossed the bridge. We've already crossed this bridge.
And this is why you're seeing a lot of people being fired too. I believe. I believe a lot of these companies understand what this guy understands. The Googles, the Microsofts, and you're seeing like thousands of layoffs. I think, of course, these companies know most of these people hate their job, and we can do this with AI for cheaper anyway. Why wouldn't we reset reset the table and see what comes of it?
What the bridge is this bridge to this new world of digital labor. I'm not sure that when we started this journey, even we fully understood where we were going. Because when you look at the digital labor TAM, it's not in the billions or tens of billions or hundreds of billions, it's in the trillions.
So TAM, total addressable market, basically what is the business economic opportunity of this market? And he thinks agents are going to be a multi-trillion dollar opportunity. And of course, I agree. I could not be more bullish.
I agree as well. I actually think it's the only game in town. Think about it. What is a business? A business is you doing something for somebody else that they do not want to do. They either don't want to learn how to do it, they don't want to do it, even if they know how to do it. So you create this entity that will do it for them at a value that they're willing to pay for to get it done by you, not them. So now, if they don't need you to do it, there's this AI agent that can do it for cheaper than paying a human being or a group of human beings, a company. What are they gonna do? They're gonna do that. So this is why I'm saying, like, I don't think there's another game in town as a business owner or an employee. It's this becomes business, I think.
On agents. You've heard me say it a million times. I probably should make a shirt that says that, but I really do believe it. I'm so incredibly excited to see what the world looks like when all of these agents are helping us every day, both in our personal lives and in our business lives. Now, let's talk about what is required to actually see this vision. One thing is, as I've mentioned, you need agents, obviously, but you need them connected to the data layer, to the database. And that's what he's going to be describing now. Now, what Salesforce has that really differentiates them is they have essentially all of a company's customer data. They have a lot more than that, but the customer data is really the key here. Now, when you allow agents to access that customer data, they become superpowered because they know about your customers. They know how to follow up appropriately. They know how to respond to inquiries from those customers, maybe when they're going to churn, maybe when it's time to upsell them. All of this stuff can now happen automatically using agents.
This is the potential right here. And this is where I've always said this too. Data is the key. So even when I started Stack, I thought, okay, what is the data that I'm going to use to be able to do this better than anybody coming along later? And what he's saying right now is Salesforce has a lot of customer relationship data. It's a CRM, customer relationship manager. So a lot of big businesses use Salesforce. Salesforce has kept all their data in the database. They're paying monthly for it for however long. And now Salesforce can say, okay, now you can put your agents, we put our agents on that data. Same with HubSpot. This is what I think businesses need to think about. Like any business. Okay, what is the data that I'm collecting to be able to do my service better than the other potential competitors?
And so, an agent without any tools and without the data, it's essentially a question and answer service with no grounding in the truth. And that's the important part. Agents need tools, they need memory, and they need access to that ground truth, to the data layer. So, that's what he's describing now.
I go to help.salesforce.com and I log in, and now I'm grounded into my information, which means it's looking at my data, it's looking at my metadata. The data cloud is federated to my other data sources. And all of a sudden, what I can do is start to work with that agent to resolve my customer service and support needs. Suddenly, overnight, it was stunning. Escalations to humans dropped by 50%. That's a big thought. So we have about 32,000 conversations.
All right, escalations to humans. Most people may not understand what this means. This means when your AI agent, your people, your customers are interacting with it, and if they get frustrated by the AI, they're like, "Can I just talk to a person?" You know, you get on that call and it's like, "Can I just talk to an operator?" That right because they're not answering what you want. Most people would rather not talk to a person. They just want the information they can get. So he's saying that by using these agents, they didn't even have to go to regular people as much by a lot.
Conversations a week on that site. And then just about 5,000 were now going to humans. And before, it was about 10,000.
So that's what I'm talking about. These are the productivity gains that we're going to see in the workforce and in the consumer world as well. But let's stick to enterprise. Imagine now, instead of 10,000 conversations going to human agents, now there's only 5,000. So the human agents now have a lot more bandwidth to do other things, to be creative and to think of other initiatives that might help the company. Or maybe in the future, they don't need to do anything, but who knows? All right, now I want to tell you a little bit about the actual nuts and bolts of how all of this works. So here's the data cloud. This is where all of your business's data is going to be housed. Here's the agentic loop. So these are where your agents are going to live. They're going to think. They're going to work with other agents. They retrieve the data, perform some action into the Customer 360 apps and channels, and then pass that back to the data cloud. And so that's the loop that the agents will be working within. I think one thing we're going to see a lot of in 2025 is the software layer being more and more customized or evolved into being able to interact with agents, or agents being able to interact with that software layer directly. And so that is what Salesforce has done. They've really deeply integrated these agents into all of their different pieces of their software suite and the data layer. So that's why it seems to work really well. And the last thing I want to tell you about is the agents that they actually allowed me to build with them as part of their demos. And so for my business, I have different people all the time reaching out to me, asking about different opportunities to work together. And what I really wanted is a way to automatically kind of qualify them, put them in a CRM, and then follow up with them as necessary. And with Agentforce, with what they've actually shown me, I was able to do that just by describing it in natural language, which was really nice. And so that's what you're seeing me do here with their sales engineer. So that's it. Agentforce 2.0 was a fun event. Mark Benioff and Salesforce's vision of an agentic future aligns with mine extremely well. I'm going to be talking about agents a lot in 2025, so hopefully you don't get sick of it, because it is going to be the prominent theme of AI in 2025.
So, same here. What he just said was very interesting because again, as a business, you got the bottlenecks of you as a founder, you have the bottlenecks of the customer relationships, and what he just said is very interesting. Like, and I've thought of this as well. Like, you get leads. Leads are not always converted. Most leads don't convert, but there's a way to keep reaching back out to those leads and, slowly maybe cultivating them to become customers. And having an AI agent do that, which that was a salesperson's job before, right? Go into the leads, reach out to them, try to get them on a phone call, keep trying every month until you get them, right? I remember when I first bought my life insurance, the guy, I was very young when he first started talking to me. I was like 24, 25. And I didn't buy life insurance from the guy till I was 30 years old because I finally had kids. But the guy reached out to me every month for years. So I felt like he deserved my business when I needed it. And now that could all be done through AI agents. And that guy's, again, he was the final close on it. So it just may have lightened his work. And I'm sure he probably set up an automation even back then to reach out to all his customers every month. Um, but this is the world we live in now. And as business owners and anybody looking for work, we need to understand it and we need to get in there and use it. And thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, reach out. Thanks.